It's a great feeling when that package hits the front door. And based on rising global parcel volumes all around the world, that feeling is happening a lot more often for a lot more people. For most consumers over the last few years, they haven't really noticed a huge difference in what happens between click and final delivery confirmation. But behind the scenes, it's a world of difference. Massive shifts have been taking place, largely powered by technology and advancements in data. On this episode of Better Yet, I couldn't think of two better people to break down some of those shifts between click and confirmation delivery than Corey and Josh. Welcome to this episode, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, dude.
Awesome. So I have Josh Fredman, SVP of Growth and Operations at Better Trucks, and Corey Apirian, founder and CEO of Davinci Micro Fulfillment. I'm going to ask them both to introduce themselves, and then we'll dive into the first topic. Corey?
Great. Thanks. Appreciate being here. Two of my favorite people to talk to in the industry. I've been in the industry for about 20 years as a supply chain executive, leading teams and helping build pick and pack operations. Since 2004, I was one of Amazon's first dropship partners then, and most major retailers first or one of the first integrations, but also help brands build their online strategies. And I've really learned a lot over the past 20 years and what the ecosystem can bring value to brands and how to merchandise, but also deliver in a service level and buying habit that the customers expect. And what Davinci is a micro fulfillment network that are our buildings built on a technology stack that enables us to get their inventory closer to the end customer to enable faster turns and a lower cost of fulfillment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corey. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Corey, great to be here with you. I'm excited about this episode. I'm Josh Fredman. I work at Better Trucks, SVP of Better Trucks. We are a last mile parcel delivery company. We're based here in Chicago, Illinois. We cover most of the Midwest, the Southeast, parts of Texas, and the New York tri-state area. We'll be growing as we enter 2024 here, and we're excited to partner with Corey and his team for deliveries throughout our network, and really looking forward to this episode, Dan.
Awesome. So let's dive in. We're going to start the first topic with decentralized inventory. It is a very important, almost guiding principle for both your organizations, getting inventory closer to the customer to achieve greater delivery speeds and reduce costs. So, Corey, I'm going to start with you today. Walk us through what you're seeing and what you're help driving. What's changed over the last few years that has enabled us to achieve a greater degree of decentralization within delivery networks?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest driver is obviously the demand for speed, right? And it's not just a 15-minute delivery, but customers want stuff in most cases in 1 to 2 days, right? Most people, I think over 90% of consumers opt into Amazon Prime and pay over $100 a year for a next day delivery, not a same day delivery, not a 2-day delivery, a next day delivery. You know, you're seeing more and more customers convert at a shopping cart, whether it's a Walmart, 1 to 2 day flag, an Amazon Prime badge, a Shopify same day, next day type delivery offering. So like speed is really important. I think precision trumps speed and telling customers when you're going to deliver stuff. But the only way you can really have a lower cost of fulfillment and get it to a customer within a precise time frame is really by being in the same zone as that end customer. So I think the buying habit drives it. And then when you talk about technology and data, understanding inventory, understanding how brands are merchandising on different channels, getting more data into that different buying habit of online versus inline shopping and what drives those consumers to purchase products in different channels, and really understanding the demographic and the hyperlocal nature of inventory and placement and things like that. Like that visibility is really key. So when you look at the data and analytics of the buying habits, and when you look at like the transparency of where inventory is, there's so much more technology on that transparency, whether you're looking at moving inbound from a distribution center into an MFC or an FC. You're looking at, how much money has been raised and developed in technology of inventory coming in from overseas, right? Internationally, whether it's China, India, Mexico, wherever it may be, Europe, right? And visibility on ocean freight coming into the US, like that transparency and watching that inventory movement from point of origin to point of consumption is so intricate now and it's so detailed. So using all that data and mining it to understand where you need to have inventory so that it can become available for a same day, 1 day or 2 day fulfillment is so much more capable now that this this technology is out there and people are starting to understand what to do with it. And we're really in the infancy of that.
Yeah, so the question about decentralization is a really interesting one, and I think that if you look at the package delivery setup of 20 or 30 years ago, shippers were demanding that carriers take lots more volume from larger facilities and get it to anywhere in the country that they need to go. And sometimes you would find that distribution centers were in New Jersey, and a large percentage of packages were going cross country. I think that, to Corey's point, and having clients want to receive that which they ordered in 24 hours or slightly longer, that is the new customer expectation. And so Corey's understanding of the network and the technology that Davinci employs is beneficial to not only the end client, but also to folks like Better Trucks, because we are much better equipped, or much more ably equipped, I should say, to take packages shorter distances faster, and at a cheaper rate. And so I think that's where there's a differential, and it's also how Better Trucks has gained a foothold in the market, and able to help its clients compete, or our clients compete with some of these larger online shops and area places that people can buy their product.
Yeah, and just to add in on that point really quick, I mean, one of the things that we love at Davinci about utilizing Better Truck Service and like why our businesses really are so symbiotic together is that the whole concept of point to point deliveries are, meant to have a lower cost of fulfillment and a sustained customer experience, but like it's so much easier to plan that from a route optimization perspective, which I know the Better Trucks team does and excels at with their technology stack. From our side, the ability to sort and to give pre-sorted product to Better Trucks, or Better Trucks to sort, and have that first mile to the last mile cadence together. Like there's a lot of value to that. And when you can get your inventory closer to the customer, there's a big effect on sustainability too. So you kind of have this like trifecta of opportunity where you're getting stuff faster, you're converting higher, it's a lower cost of fulfillment, and it's more sustainable. And it's also a much higher quality of delivery. I mean, in our experience with Better Truck, we have barely, if any, order defects. When you look at certain product categories, even outside of what we're doing, and you look at like a high value item or a low value, high weight item, those things need a better touch of handling. No pun intended, but you think you see what I did there. And, you really need this new class of carrier to be able to do that. And it's not just about having a sort center and conveyors and massive mechanization to be able to enable that. It's really about the right network and the right tech to plan the inventory.
Let's continue along that thread, technology, because technology is the great enabler of these more advanced networks, of the greater decentralization. Corey, do you think we're better leveraging the technology that already existed, new technologies are emerging, or both to enable kind of this next generation of intelligent networks?
Both. I think there's new technology that's emerging. I think there's current technology that people are understanding how to reutilize. I think people are understanding the lanes that they're in, and one company being totally port to porch is a really hard thing to do. So, like staying in the lane that you're in, like I never want to operate a sortation network and a first, middle, and last mile network. It's just not what we're good at. It's not what we want to do. It's not what the team's trained in. It's not what brands come to us for. So why would I try to go build it? It's too much. And I think handing off to strategic partners like Better Trucks and their team who are trained in that, and that's what their mission is, and they're focused on it, in the same type of customer centric approach that we're focused on for our customers, and like Amazon's focused on for their customers, and so on and so forth. But I think like the more and more the ecosystem grows, like people are learning every day, and I think it's some of the smartest people in this industry today, and like how they utilize technology and the experience of the ecosystem combined is like what the most amazing thing is. Like I think we walk and like the bricks get paved of this industry every single day. that's a really cool place to be. And like mistakes are going to happen, right, in all facets, but that continuous progress is really cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would add two things. The first is, you know, Corey, I love that the thought process there that you kind of excel in your swim lane and then partner with others who do things that are complementary really well. And I think that's why the partnership with Davinci works so well. I think a lot of this need for data and technology is um, been it's been asked of everyone by the consumers to improve the customer experience, to improve the transparency. That just seems to me to be, what's driving all of this, and I think that's a win-win for everybody. So it's making companies become more efficient. It's making companies develop new technologies that improve communication. It's helping get costs out of the system, and that's the beauty of technology. And so, um, I think that's where there's still a long way to go. But I think the last several years we've seen a huge uptick in just incredible technology stacks across the supply chain industry.
Awesome. Let's keep going down this thread. So you can't have a decentralized inventory if you don't have that intelligent network and that optimized network. Josh, let's start with you. I know at Better Trucks you put an enormous amount of effort into your network itself. You have a line haul that connects all of your distribution facilities, unlike a lot of other regional carriers. Why is it so important for you, or what are you doing to really focus on optimizing your network within Better Trucks to enable that speed, that next day, 2 day delivery?
Yeah, so maybe not surprisingly, we've kind of taken a page out of the old network airline kind of hub and spoke system kind of approach. I think the hub and spoke system is relatively easy, and so you have massive inflows of volume, and then a couple hours later, send all those packages out to their end destination or end metro. That's where you really gain economies of scale. I think that as Better Truck scales, I think that as we have opportunity to grow, you'll see more of a kind of point to point type system to what Corey was talking about earlier. And that comes with not only additional technologies we were just talking about, but kind of volume and also a better understanding of where your clients are, where their needs are, where there's opportunity. And that's all about data and maturity and scale, and that's what we're working towards, because ultimately point to point is at the end of the day faster and cheaper, and that's what our customers are asking for.
Corey, I know this is a key tenant over at Davinci is that network optimization, especially you mentioned it earlier, from that front end merchandising, from that first click on through to the delivery of confirmation. Talk to us about kind of your approach and what you're seeing with that within that network optimization space.
Yeah, I think it's a hard problem to solve. I think there's a few people that are trying to tackle it right now in the logistics space. I mean, Amazon obviously rebuilt their whole network in this new 8 core component regional fulfillment model, and that's all about network optimization and merchandising, what items are selling and what demographics, and really trying to have that inventory placed and moved within that region and not from region to region. That's a really important thing, and that's made them a lot of money in the past 2 quarters, and it's increased their conversion as well. It's increased their repeat purchases, which is a really important thing because you're building that trust with the consumer. But it all starts with being predictive and knowing what the customer wants to buy in that channel and where to place it. And I don't think anyone will ever have 100% accuracy in forecasting. It's just impossible, right? But if you can get 80, 90% on your top 80% of your volume, like you're making huge impacts in your profitability and the customer experience. You're reducing split shipments, you're reducing lead time, you're reducing costs, you're increasing that same conversion. And I think that's a really important thing. I mean, point to point deliveries are a great thing, but it's really expensive to do. It's really hard to do if you don't have volume and density. So it's got to be done the right way, right? And do you want to sacrifice a 3 to 4 day delivery with like a better cost? I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm not sure if anyone does, but what I'm betting on fully for all channels, I mean, I think Amazon knows the answer to that. Actually, it's a next day delivery. I think other channels are definitely trying to figure it out. I'm betting on the fact that Amazon's right I've seen it for a long time. I think that 1 day delivery, even if the cost is better on 3 to 4 day, I think that 1 day delivery is more meaningful for a variety of reasons. And I know there's a lot of companies that are zone skipping right now and doing all that type of stuff through middle mile. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good muscle for a lot of companies to have that capability. But I think if you can understand how to get the inventory right before that first click on the website, and you're selling the right item in the first place on the right channel with the right tactics behind it, and it's available to be fulfilled in a same day, 1 day, 2 day format, I think that's the positioning that creates the success. And it's somewhat predictive, and you need technology and you need experience in the ecosystem to really understand how to do that and why it all clicks together. It's not enough just to say, let's look at all these channels and try to tell brands, well, you should sell more on Target. Well, yeah, of course that would be great, but like, why? You know, why should I sell this on
Yeah,
Target?
so Corey, maybe just asking a question of you there, as you think about Davinci and you think about where physically you want to have locations, kind of how do you think about that and how do you think about what you need to equip each of your facilities with, thinking into consideration about the differences in type of product that each building might house?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the reality is like the buildings are set up in Da Vinci's format to make the same hamburger everywhere. The real estate itself could look different, right? Like it's not the same cookie cutter building everywhere, but the flow inside the four walls is somewhat similar, and the process and the technology utilized and the training of cross training really of different functions, whether it's picking and packing, sortation, decanting, all of that stuff are the same training across the network. So the whole concept of Davinci and the front end merchandising, the network optimization is don't sell the same item everywhere, and don't put the same quantity of every item in every building, and be somewhat rifle approach and precise from a seasonal and regional perspective, right? So that you can lower the cost of inventory on hand in a more just in time format. We're not a storage facility, so for brands to store stuff in Davinci doesn't work. That's risk to us. It's not good for them. We incentivize on inventory turns and selling through product, not like a traditional third party logistics company that sells storage and real estate and freight and all that stuff, right? That's not what we do. So understanding that, I mean, right now, as we talked about, like we're trying to solve a 1 to 2 day problem with the same day radius around certain buildings, but I don't think same day is like the holy grail of fulfillment right now. I think, Amazon's built all these sub same day facilities that are these 75,000 square foot MFCs in their regional fulfillment model, but they have 50% of the country's volume, and it's more a lower operating expense and a byproduct, more so than anything else, that same day muscle for them because they have the inventory there and it works for them to flow it through their building out of their sortable FCs and MFCs, right? With their carrier base too, and they can control that flow. You're not seeing UPS pull up when you order something on Amazon on a same day delivery. Like those are the Amazon, their transportation trucks, right? Um, or their DSP network. So, I mean, when you look at that, like I'm solving for a 1 to 2 day problem, and our 6 buildings hit 85% the next day, and close to 100%, 99.7%. There's a little sliver in Montana and the bottom of Denver and Utah that is 3 day, but not a lot of population density there, so I'm okay giving it up to 3 day. I know what the next 4 buildings are though that round out that next day coverage across the U.S. if Davinci were to go do that. Right now we're still trying to maximize our throughput and capacity of each one of our buildings. And as far as equipment goes inside the buildings, the next step is robotics and automation to really put that, unit economic and throughput and capacity utilization, in a higher throughput really and cadence really and drive that muscle up. So that's on the radar for, launching into Q1, early Q2 of next year. And that's what I think makes sense for our business model.
Amazing. Let's talk about technology investments for a moment. You both are making significant investments in your technology teams and your technology itself. And the experience of working with you both, either individually or together, is going to be vastly different than the experience of working with a national. And given the nationals are still, probably 89%, we know that's changing every day, but like describe to us or walk through some of the differences that you're seeing. You're both winning significant brands every day. Major retailers are making the switch. I guess like talk us through some of the differences that you're making in their lives that they're seeing through the implementation of the innovative technology that you both are working to build. Josh, maybe let's start with you.
Yeah. So, I think that, one of the things that we've kind of prided ourselves on over the last couple of years is the dynamic side to our routing capability in order to get packages to the end client faster. And with that is not only the actual physical dynamic routing capability, but also the dynamic pricing capability. And so based on the client's needs and wants, we have service offerings that we can align with their needs. And I think that's very different from what you might see with a national carrier, where you have very kind of stringent service levels that predicate what the time in transit would be, or what the certain pickup times might be for a package, or what the certain drop off times might be for a package. I think that one of the things that we try to do is we try to be as flexible as we can and allow our technology with the inputs that we're given to kind of help us uh, forecast, but also assign like the right vehicle, the right asset to do the work that's needed of the client. And so whether that's from a first mile standpoint, or whether that's needed from a last mile drop standpoint, at the end of the day, we're both servicing. Obviously, Corey's a client, but we're also servicing the customer who the package is destined for, that's purchased the item. And so that's what's most important. And I think is we can be as flexible and as communicative as possible through technology, enabling texting capabilities between the end recipient and the driver. Those types of items that you see in certain things like food delivery is just a natural evolution, because it's still the same process of a driver coming to your house, or wherever to deliver the package.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you from like watching the ecosystem on the outside, like why Better Trucks wins out there is because of cost and service, and like their tech stack is very purposeful, right? Like people who engage with them know that, and if you know how to utilize it the right way, it could really work for you. And I said this in the beginning of the episode. One of the reasons that decentralized inventory is even a thing is like we know where inventory is at all times. Like we can track it, right? It's somewhat dynamic. And I think like he and Andy and the team have taken this, carrier optimization, these routes and lanes into a dynamic route. And, it becomes very purposeful when you can do that, because there's adjustments that need to be made for all these different reasons. And I compare that to Davinci in our own swim lanes, right? Of like, why do we win? We win because I think our tech stack, our physical location network, our pricing, our philosophy, like those things are very purposeful. And you have this like innovators dilemma on the other side. Like no disrespect to a traditional 3PL or a traditional order fulfillment company. They've built phenomenal businesses, but they built their businesses a decade ago that the ecosystem was X, and it was very serviceable and needed the brands and the retailers that needed it, it worked for them at that point in time. But the ecosystem has changed, things have evolved, customers have more requirements, the shipping lanes have actually changed inside the domestic US, like the cost of where inventory is, real estate pricing, all of these things have dynamically changed, like pre-COVID, during COVID, after COVID. Like that was a huge impact itself, and you're seeing things rapidly change now too, right? Like I think post-COVID things are really starting to change from the capabilities, what the merchants and brands and retailers are actually looking for, because now they're really attuned to it. Like it hit them and then it slowed, but now they're attuned to it. So they need to optimize, they need to save costs, they need purposeful technology, and they want to utilize that. And that's coming from the customer, that's coming from the C-suite, that's coming from the e-commerce growth teams, that's coming from the brick and mortar teams, right, or the transportation teams. Like it's hitting every impact of business and life and customer behavior. And I think that like those who are purposefully enabled to go operate today that are selling something that people need are going to win. It's no different than something 20 years ago, right? And I think that's what you see at both of our companies.
Yeah, one of the things I really appreciate and like about what Davinci's done is they've opened up the ability to sell product for certain brands and for certain sellers in ways that didn't exist previously or that were much more difficult to access. And so, Corey, I'm thinking about some of your clients that are third party sellers on larger websites, commerce sites. Without you guys and without your technology, it doesn't happen, and certainly doesn't happen as easily as it does today. And so I think that is kind of you've opened up, opportunity to a whole new subset of brands and clients. And so that's, to me, that's awesome. That's unlocking opportunity.
Let's talk a little bit about data here. It's a topic we talk about often on Better Yet, but the mining of data, the utilization of data, and the impact of data. I know it's both something you all talk about probably daily with your teams. I know Josh is an instance. I've heard you continually talk about dynamic pricing. How can we deliver a better experience for our shippers? That's within our network that enables us to optimize what's happening and for them to benefit. Corey, the utilization of data and the end-to-end process, again, from that first click on through to that final delivery. Let me start with you, Corey. What are you seeing as far as the mining, the utilization, and the deployment of data inside your organizations to improve your customers' just entire delivery experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that there are so many pre and post purchase moments that data can really drive home, right? A product leaves a building and all of a sudden, a carrier damages it or it gets damaged for whatever reason. Maybe it's one of our packers' fault. Maybe it's the carrier's fault. Maybe it was undeliverable because, there was a rabid dog at the gate and, the mailman couldn't go in. All those things can and will happen. And ultimately, like pinging an API call and understanding that there was a problem with that product before it even came back to the building allows our team to go reach out to the customer operations or e-com operators at the merchant brand or retailer and be proactive on that. And then it's just a better customer experience. And then you can repeat that, right? You can repeat how not to have that happen if it's, a case of glass water as an example, and ultimately it wasn't packed the right way, or you need new packaging, or you need some type of insert so the glass doesn't touch each other. Like all of those things can happen. It's probably a little minute into the detail, right? But understanding like products that are being sold together, and trying to place those inventories closer together, another great example of how you can make that a better experience for the customer who doesn't have to receive two boxes and wonder where there's two, why are there two different tracking numbers, or something gets brought to their door and all of a sudden, they're questioning if somebody made a mistake and they forgot an item, but then it shows up 3 days later with even a different carrier, right? Like that can happen also, because of a rate shopping, metric behind the scenes. So how you drive that together. We talk about market basket analyses on our merchandising stack, and we had a huge success with a large brand of gummies that we looked and saw customers ordering three different types of a competitive product in three different flavors: rainbow goldfish, cheddar goldfish, pretzel goldfish, and then another one looking at small bite-sized Oreos and Chips Ahoy and Nutter Butter. And we use the technology to understand and the data that mom or dad was looking for school lunches, and we were able to put small packs of original berry and tropical fruit flavored gummies into a box, and all of a sudden that became a $2 million item with a Prime badge on a an Amazon channel, and we were able to drive that with like really great precision. So in all areas of the chain, like data is just so critical, and it's really powerful of how you can mine it. And I think what I hear from brands most specifically on that is like, yes, the customer experience is like critical to them and they care so much about it. It costs so much money for them to acquire a customer. Like you can lose it in one fell swoop. But they also want to manage and like measure the efficacy of their advertising spend and like what happens in line versus online themselves. And you can really see that in these ecosystems and environment when you understand the channels that you're shipping to and for, and the zip code level details and the halo effects that can happen when you buy retail media for a certain channel. And like you can actually measure those things on a fulfillment channel very differently than you used to be able to. And data can show you that almost immediately.
Yeah, that's great. That's great stuff,
Fascinating.
Corey. I think one of the more recent ways that we've been leveraging data is to figure out um, where we are winning packages during a rate shop from a pricing standpoint, from a zone standpoint, versus where we are not, or where we were getting packages and where we're not, or where we're getting packages now versus where we hadn't been previously, or we're getting more packages. And so, from that standpoint, we can use that and kind of figure out what's going on. Is it a pricing issue? Is it a economic issue? Is there certain types of industries that we're seeing volume changes in that might materially change plans for the future in terms of asset needs or geographical decisions on where to go continue to grow the business. I think that there's so much data out there. It's tough to kind of synthesize, what it is that you need and to make sense of what it is that you're seeing in a very condensed and fast way. And so I think that that's no different than what you see in other industries. I just think especially in the parcel shipping world, it's so new that we're kind of constantly reinventing reports or trying to figure out what the data really means and how to use it.
Yeah, it's so interesting as I hear you both talk. You're really trying to push for those optimizations. Not only does that result in a better experience for the shipper, but ultimately for all of us as consumers, whether that's a slightly faster package, whether that's a slightly better rate on the shipping itself. You're working to really push kind of this industry forward, which we all benefit. So very much appreciate that about both of you. I got one more, and then we'll kind of wrap up in a few. Josh, you mentioned this. Some thoughts on the fallacy of same day. Do you want to share some thoughts on? I know it's a topic you talk a lot about with retailers. I know it comes up in a lot of the conversations, especially initially. What are your thoughts on same day delivery?
Yeah, so I think Corey and I are aligned here. I think that the next day desires of the client are kind of where the market is right now. I think that same day delivery is cool, it's fun, it's sexy, it's like everybody thinks that they want it. The problem inherently with same day delivery is that it's expensive. And why is it expensive? Because to Corey's point earlier, we're trying to solve for volume and density. That's no secret. And so when you try to ship something same day, the volume and density that you're able to achieve is significantly lower than if you have, a lot of other packages that you're trying to, deliver after, having them all under, a roof and figuring out where they're going and what they're doing and when they're due. Um, and so, I also think, personally, the client that purchased the item, what are their needs, what are their wants when they make the
Yeah.
purchase? Are they expecting that package to deliver at their doorstep by 9 p.m.? Maybe it's for certain items, but for a lot of items, the next day delivery is more than sufficient. And so that's my take on same day delivery. But Corey, what are your thoughts?
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think that customers want stuff in 1 to 2 days. I think same day is a little bit of a novelty. I think it's purposeful for many categories, right? Like if you're delivering ice cream, you better get that there in 30 minutes, right? Or it's going to be very expensive. Otherwise, like, yes, you can put cooling devices and active freezing in vehicles and things like that. There's some cool tech around that. But you got to have that same day muscle for that, convenience, right? Your GoPuff, your Dash Marts, like that world shipped even. Like I think there's a lot of purposefulness for a lot of those categories. Like, there's been times I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old where they were both sick and, we went through children's Tylenol, like we were just going through it fast and we needed more. And, I went on target.com and I used shipped and I got it in a half an hour. And like, it was a big deal, at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., for my wife and I. So like there are instances where same day is really important for a lot of consumer goods and for like hard lines and general merchandise. Like I think if, I ordered a pair of sneakers online, like I'm probably okay to get that in 1 to 2 days. And like the cost of that fulfillment for Nike or whomever might
Yeah.
not be better on a same day versus 1 day versus 2 day. It's going to be better on a 3 to 5 day, when you're looking at zone coverage from traditional parcel. And when you're looking at, even a local regional carrier like Better Trucks, the less distance they have to travel, the less touches they have, the more traditional lanes they can travel through, the more cost effective that package delivery is going to be for them. And guess what? That's going to get passed through, So I think it's important to understand that. I think it's also important to look at the category and the channels that are being serviced, because I think there are some scenarios where same day makes sense. And I think there's a lot of scenarios where buy online, pick up in store makes sense. I mean, look what Target's done with that,
Sure.
right? They've taken freight completely out of the equation. Locker pickups. I mean, in the US, locker pickups are probably a little more challenging because of lack of density, and the understanding of that. And customers, I think, do want stuff delivered to their doorstep.
Yep.
But if they're in an apartment building or an office or a gym, and you're in the city, like obviously Amazon has locker hubs. Everybody's got a locker hub, right? Not everybody, but there's it's not like a small thing, and there's a convenience factor to it. So I think it's very situational. I think like that's where it can be challenging, right? Like if you're a retailer, like what do I offer to my end customer? I think like the core thing that I go back to is that you can give some optionality to your customers. You don't have to offer same day deliveries across 100% of the continental US. But if
Yeah.
you offer, a 1 to 2 day delivery and a same day delivery in certain zones, and you're upfront with the customer about those delivery expectations at checkout, and you're precise with that delivery on the back end, I think you're going to win. And I think you're going to find, if you look at the data, that most people are going to repeat purchase if they get it in 1 to 2 days. And I think most people are going to opt into a 1 day when they can, the cost is right.
Yeah, I think what you said for me and as a consumer is that given that choice, I often think about putting the genie back in the bottle and how fast is too fast. But you're right. Like a lot of this stuff, you don't need it same day. You may choose it because it's there, but I think that's really on the retailer to say, look at that data. And if you're, to your point, not losing that consumer, then it's almost an unnecessary. I hate to say it for a lot of different reasons to both your point.
And a lot of the same day folks are very, very like gig worker driven, right? Not all, but like a lot of them. So I mean, there's a active community of millions of gig workers, right, that work for all these different same day companies, and like it's definitely a business. Don't get me wrong, and they're sharing that, but they're sharing their own density on some level. It's the route optimization that needs to build on that. And I
Yeah.
think from a retail store, I think same day makes a lot more sense versus like from a logistics network. And I think it's very situational.
Awesome. We covered a ton of ground here today. I'm going to get you both out of here on this. It's called Better Yet for a reason. Thanks in large part to a lot of what you're both doing and a lot of folks in similar shoes are doing to push our industry forward. There's a lot to be excited about. So when you think of 2024 and the year ahead, what most excites you about where this industry is headed? Corey, you're our guest. Why don't we start with you today?
I appreciate that, and it's been awesome being here. Thanks again. I would say what most excites me is that I think people are really starting to see why decentralized inventory and micro fulfillment is important. And to me, who's been trying to educate and fight this battle for a long time, it's super exciting. Target just announced, a 9-figure investment into their micro fulfillment centers over the few days ago, and Amazon's proven it. And I think the more that we can separate and prove that out as well is a really exciting thing. And we want to help brands sell more stuff and make more money and keep turning that flywheel. And with great partners like Josh and people understanding why inventory closer to the customer is a thing, like to me that's super exciting. And it's somewhat self-serving, but it's a really important piece of the ecosystem.
Amazing. Thanks, Corey. Josh?
Yeah. So, hey, Corey, thanks for joining. This was great. Dan, thanks for hosting. Going back to what we were talking about earlier about data and the use of data, I think in the last several months within the logistics side of the industry, especially small parcel, there's been a lot of push to lower costs, not only because of what excess capacity that might be in the market, but also clients are demanding lower costs across the board. And so for that reason, parcel delivery companies are being forced to become smarter with how they can lower their costs and pass those on to the end client. And I think that all has to do with data and also kind of network construct. And so as we go into 2024, I'm really excited about being able to employ data to make more strategic, better decisions to help generate cost savings to our clients while keeping up the service level that we're accustomed to and getting packages to people on time. So that's really what we're going to be focused on, and really excited for early next year.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Josh. Really appreciate both your perspectives. Thanks for joining me today on this episode of Better Yet. Talk to you both later. Thank you.